Hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? Hope you're having a great start to your week. Now, before we get into this episode, a couple things. One, if you're new to the show, welcome. Glad you're here. What we do on this show is we talk about how to build your business. And this show is a lot about real estate, but that doesn't mean that if you are in some other business, you can't learn from this content. This is all about selling, about building your business. And we get into everything from strategies and tactics as well as mindset. Now, look, today's guest is a trainer. Now, that's interesting, first of all. This guy doesn't come out and say he's a coach. He says he's a trainer. And his goal is to change the industry. Listen to what he says here.
What I want to do, I want to create, authentic, consumer-centric, results-focused real estate advisors.
Today's guest, he, as like most of you guys, he just fell into real estate. He very quickly realized that the customer experience was wildly different and often not very good for the consumer. His goal was to provide a predictable experience just like any other big brand, whether it's McDonald's or Mercedes. Now, he built his business around that notion, and after doing about 300 deals a year, he just felt empty, right? He said it just didn't feel right. We covered that a little bit. Now, the industry we talk about, that from a consumer's point of view, this industry is commoditized. Now, what happens when you're a commodity? Price pressure, right? Price goes down. If you just compete on price and not service and not differentiation, that's rough, man. Then that's not where you want to be. And more, I'll tell you, if you ever go to a big, not necessarily a seminar, but I don't want to say anybody's names, but if you ever go to a big, let's just call it conference, right? Or seminar. What you will find is that this industry very much so is all about follow the leader. What's that guy doing? What's that guy doing? I'm going to do the same thing, right? And it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guess what? Everybody looks the same. And if everybody looks the same, sounds the same, smells the same, you're going to have a very hard time saying, this is why you should pay me more. All right. So today's guest realized that he wanted to change that, and he shares that, a very odd thing about this industry is that consumers will spend more time looking at reviews of flat screen TVs or of where to get great tacos than they will researching the person that's going to sell their biggest asset, right? There's this notion that, hey, you know what? If Julie can do it, Jim can do it, or vice versa. And particularly, now I will tell you this, if you are not a top producer, that is a good thing for you, because if the notion out in the market is that, hey, you know what, Jim could do just as good of a job as Toby, well then, hey Jim, you know what, you're gonna be able to compete with me on a relatively equal level. However, when people realize, hey man, I need a Toby, I need that guy Toby to get me the most money in the shortest time, well, then you're hurting, Jim, right? You're never going to catch me. So think about how you can differentiate yourself, your business. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first $1 million in real estate. Yeah. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
All right, so we talk about this episode. We cover a very wide range of topics, from mindset to why everybody and all of you guys should be able to calculate lifetime value of your clients. Super important. I talk about that many times in this thing. He also shares that if you can provide an upscale experience, you can charge upscale prices. That's it. You guys don't want to be like, hey, yeah, that guy will do it for 2. I'll do it for or 2.5. I'll do it for 2. Wrong. Who says that? Who says that? And by the way, in 8 days, we're going to have a new president. And look, I'm going to give you a gift, right? You guys know, we're in the radio business. We put people on radio. But if you didn't know that, you should know that. It's insane. Every week I'll get an email from someone who says, what? You do radio? Yeah, we do radio, man. We can help you double your business in 12 months, or we'll give your money back. How's that? Again, just playing with headlines. But here's something that we're playing with on radio. It's actually working. Do you know how early on with Trump, a lot of people said, if that dude gets elected, I'm moving to Canada, right? And I know of an agent, I won't say where or when, because I'm not a big fan of this guy, but he did a giant billboard with that. Moving to Canada, he got national television press for that. So right now in your Facebook ads, in your emails, play with that headline. Play that headline. Moving to Canada, and let me know how it goes. If Hillary gets elected in 8 days, you only have 8 days to use that headline. If Trump gets elected, or just cause a bunch of ruckus in Q1, maybe you'll have you can use that headline for a little bit longer. All right, whatever. Listen, the end of this episode. Today's guest built a course for agents, and he offers a $500 promo code. I don't normally do that, but I want you guys to listen to the whole thing. All right, let's get to it. You guys commonly are out in the world. You hear somebody speak, you go to a conference, you get all excited, and the next thing I know, I get a ton of emails going, you got to get this person on. That's how today's guest came about. Now, I asked him, I said, hey, man, what's the best way to introduce you? And he said to me, I have a passion for real estate. I'm a trainer. I want to change the industry. So, and what I thought, first blush, what was interesting, he didn't say coach. He said he was a trainer. So today's guest is Eric Putoto. Hey, Eric, thanks for taking the time out, man.
Toby, my pleasure, and thanks for having me and creating such an amazing platform for the industry.
Absolutely, 100%. So as you know, or may not know, but I always want to get a feeling for who you are, right? Who is the man behind the brand? So we're going to talk about what you think about the industry, what you're doing, what you're passionate about. But first, tell us a little about who Eric Putoto is.
Okay. Well, I fell into this industry about 24 years ago, and prior to that, I was a university student who traveled for a couple of years after graduation and trying to find myself probably more than anything. So fell into the real estate industry, had a extensive athletic background in college and whatnot, very competitive by nature, that kind of makeup, if you will. And within the first, 4 or 5 years of slugging it out in the industry like everyone else does, I kind of picked up on the fact that consumers in general did not have a very great or very good perception of realtors, and it bothered me a lot. And I kind of thought to myself, well, I need to maybe find a way to get better at what I do and kind of create some mastery in what it is I'm doing, because I want to be perceived and seen as somebody different. So about 18, 20 years ago, I started seeking mentorship and going to courses like a lot of realtors do, and it's something I've been doing ever since. And ended up owning a brokerage very early on, about 2.5 years in to my real estate career with a partner. That lasted about 8 years until our franchise agreement. It was a Prudential Realty franchise. When that expired, I had began building a team with my wife, and in 2004, we opened our own label called Platinum Realty with 4 agents. Well, no, actually 3 and my wife, so 1 admin and 3 agents, myself and 2 buyer agents. And we grew that to 14, 4 admin and 10 agents. And over a 5-year period, we're number 1 team in our region, and so on and so forth, doing close to 300 transactions a year, and ultimately achieving what I thought was success, and feeling like, well, I'm in the top 1% of agents in North America, so I am that somebody now, and so maybe I've accomplished what it is I wanted to accomplish. And then because I kept wanting to seek, and there was still something I felt like I needed to find, and I ended up in front of some mentors who really impacted my life in this industry. Is it okay if I mention them?
Sure,
Toby,
of course, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's important.
Well, the first being Larry Kendall, who created a program. You may be familiar with Larry, who developed Ninja Selling, and so I met him through Star Power, and he ran the leadership universities for Howard when he was still with us, and so I met Larry there and went to two different universities, and because I was just blown away by Larry, I just thought he was an absolute Herculean personality and just the salt of the earth and such an authentic individual. And I ultimately ended up going to Colorado Springs not Colorado Springs, but Fort Collins, Colorado, to where his office was, to do his training out of there. And then he told me about a fellow. He goes, we'd gotten to know each other a little bit by then. And he said, Eric, you know, I know what you want to do, and I get a sense that, you know, you want to kind of help people in this industry and move things along. And, you know, I kind of said, yeah, I do. And, you know, I'm passionate about what I do, but I'm concerned about our industry and its well-being and where we sit within, you know, the whole perception thing. And because it was still troubling me. And he said, well, you need to go meet a fellow by the name of Harold Ware, who has created a training in a company called Max Avenue. And
okay, hold on. I'm just gonna let's before we get too far down the path here, right? We go Larry and then Harold. That's fine. We can pick up on this. But here's what I want to backtrack to, right? Because because obviously, as we look, I'm not going to get weird about this, but the way that we develop. It's just a bunch of experiences, right? We have this experience and this experience. It gets layered on top, and all of a sudden, momentum and life gets in the way, and all of a sudden, we're this person, right? For better or for worse, right? But so we are a culmination of all our past experiences. Now, I want to go back to you being a kid, right? So a couple things. One, you're an only kid, and you shared that with me, not in this call, but a prior call. You're a competitive kid, right? And you're also an athlete as a kid. Now, one of the things that you said, right? You graduated, you traveled for years trying to find yourself, and then, Eric, you when you achieved that 300 deals, your top 1%, you still illustrated, exhibited. You told me that that was shallow, right? Something was missing. There's something I needed to find. So let's explore that a little bit, right? So,
Sure.
this wanting, this not being fulfilled, right? I can even tie that into you being competitive, right? You're competitive. You want to prove something to yourself or to the world. What was it, do you think? Is it proving something to yourself or the world, or how do you unpack that?
Wow. I guess, I can't really explain that in the way that I think you want me to, other than, I'll try by saying that, even though I had achieved that kind of success, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like, it felt like it was all about me, and it kind of, I think I had a bit of an aha moment when I realized that the industry was so agent-centric that, it became so obvious to me that, that this was all about us. And then it tied together with the whole perception thing, which I had another aha moment, and I'm like thinking, okay, well, this is why the consumers have this perception of us, is because we are so agent-centric in that everything about us screams that. I mean, we have companies who honor agents who in two forms: number of transactions and gross commission income. Which are no companies. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I was just going to agree with you. So number one, this industry is and has been very agent-centric. I think it's changing, but I mean, there is no other industry, there is no other business where people feel the need to put their name on their business, number one. And number two, put their face on it. Come on, right? Ridiculous.
No, I mean, it's narcissistic. Let's call it what it is.
It's retarded. That's a bad word.
It is
but
retarded.
You're right.
And so we have, just to carry on with my thought, it became glaringly obvious to me that, the consumer was left out. And then I started exploring that a little deeper. I go, well, okay, how does this industry survive with this sort of mentality and philosophy? And it's because, as you know, and your listeners will know, that approximately only 10% of homeowners will even think about trying to sell their home on their own, okay? And fewer will want to buy on their own, okay? So we own 90% or better of the market in an incredible industry, in an industry where that, you know, it is a necessity. It's one of the essentials, living essentials, and that's having a roof over your head. So we own 90% of the market, and people have nowhere to go. And if you look at, you know, if you look at our industry and look at the brokerages or the new companies on the block in the last 10 to 15 years, they all have one thing in common. And at least to my knowledge, I don't know of any new company that is not, in some way, shape, or form, a variation of a discount brokerage. Okay? So now these people come from within our industry and go, well, the consumers look at us like we're all the same, first of all, and it doesn't really matter who we hire, the outcome's going to be the same. So if that's the case, and I don't want to do this myself, then the only way for me to really find value from the consumer's point of view is to do this on the cheap, or do it through somebody who's not going to charge me less, which in and of itself makes no sense either, and I'll explain in a second as to why. But this is what's happening. And so, you know, the agents are carrying on doing their thing, and there's such a epidemic with lead generation and branding and all this stuff that has, again, is so agent-centric that it's kind of leaving the consumer out in the cold looking at us going like, what are they doing? Yet I have no choice but to deal with somebody. So we end up dealing with our friends or whatever. And, you know, the consumer is spending more time researching flat-screen TVs and laptop computers than they are agents who are going to handle the sale of their most expensive asset.
Right. Hold on. You're 100% correct. And I think, and I'm going to drag you back, right? We're going to go back in time for a second, but we can absolutely all agree, you and I can, and hopefully the listeners know this, that this business, everybody is commoditized. And when you as an agent or as an industry become a commodity, the only thing you can compete on is price. And I agree. You use the word epidemic. I 100% agree. It's an epidemic. It's because there are people out there starting these businesses with no imagination. They see what the guy on the other corner does, and they're like, oh, well, that worked for him. Let me do the same thing. Everybody looks the same, sounds the same, smells the same. All right, we'll pick that up. I'll write that down, commodity. Now, I want to go back here because, and I'll tell you why I'm exploring this, right? So, again, you had success, and what you told me a couple minutes ago, you said, we had a success, but it didn't feel right. Now, let me tell you why I want to explore this, and you may be bored, but mindset is such an important part of finding success, keeping success. So, and I can tell you, even if you are, as you know, you're the top 1% in the world, in the North America, whatever it is, right? If your mindset isn't appropriately tuned up to deal with that, you know, you're not going to keep it, you're not going to value it. So when you were achieving by all outward measures, success, why didn't it feel right to you? What was it about your mindset or the place that it just didn't feel right?
It felt like I was extracting from my clients. And it didn't feel like, I mean, though I felt like I was doing a better job than most agents, because I had sought to master some skills and to, you know, want to achieve, you know, fewest days on market and things like a higher list to sell ratio and higher sale price to ask price ratios and stuff like that. I started thinking about these things that I would call more consumer-centric statistics versus how many homes you sell and what's your GCI. Okay.
Do you think so? I think those metrics are useless, and it actually drives me kind of nuts, right? So how many homes do you sell? 330, meaningless in my mind, right? You know, what's your GCI? I have a client. We do radio, okay? We do radio. We put people on radio. We put people on television. I onboarded this girl this woman recently. And I do not want to give her name or location away. And she's like, "Hey, Toby, listen, I am almost at that 1 million GCI. I'm going to hit it this year, so help me hit it." And I said, "Okay, sure." So I thought, I don't talk in top line. I talk in bottom line. That's all that matters. And I found out that she was doing almost $1 million in GCI, doing about 750. She's only netting 150 grand, right? So you could be up there getting awards. Do you think that's a problem? Mm-hmm. You can get an award for getting $1 million GCI, but you're spending $900K on customer acquisition and running your business. You're fundamentally failing, but you're getting awards, and people chase that. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is a problem in this industry in terms of the way that who is put up on a pedestal for top line and not bottom line, not building a good business?
Huge problem. And the bigger problem is that we don't measure anything that benefits the consumer.
Okay.
That's a bigger problem. So, and what you're saying is absolutely true, because I belonged to a program years ago when I was building my team that was kind of designed to help people like me who wanted to achieve huge numbers and build teams. And I would, I was networking with agents from all across North America, and we would go to conferences and meet and so on and so forth. And it was like the holy grail was to find a way to net more than 30% of your GCI. No one could get there.
Wow.
Okay. So, and I'm talking huge agents that I know if I threw their name out, you'd know them. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are not small players, and they're still killing it by that standard. Okay. But to me, that just, it didn't mean anything to me anymore. And it felt wrong, because at the end of the day, why not differentiate yourself differently? I make more money now as a standalone agent. Okay, I have assistants? Yes, I do. They're all virtual. I do not have a buyer agent, and I do a fraction of the transactions I used to do. But every time I deal with a client, they become a lifetime client. I don't need to worry about lead generation. Why does an agent, Toby, who's been in the business for 10 to 15, 20 years, still need to concern themselves with lead generation? And it's a simple math solution, and the answer is that the people they're dealing with are not satisfied and didn't feel like they got any value. Now, you said something earlier about being a commodity, and that if we're a commodity, we have to compete on price. Well, is that true? Does the Ritz-Carlton have to compete with Motel 6? No, they don't.
Yeah, no, of course
not. People are prepared to pay for value. Okay, if I can demonstrate to a client, which I do each and every time I'm in front of them, that I'm going to get them 5 to 10% more for their home, because homes do not have a fixed price. Okay, so that fact alone throws out all the discount brokerages out the door. Like, if I'm competing with a discount brokerage, as soon as I explain to a homeowner that, if the top end value of their home is $500,000, if I mismanage, or they hire somebody who mismanages the home selling process, they could easily end up at $450,000.
Yep.
So when they understand that, do they care if I'm going to cost them $2,500 more because I charge more commission, or are they going to care about the fact that they have, $50,000 on the table that could go one way or the other depending on who they hire to manage the process? And it has nothing to do with the market, nothing to do with the interest rates or the economy. This is in any market, any time, any city, any kitchen table.
Yep. So you're speaking my language right now. So here's what I'm always. I mean, literally, I've put together whole episodes. I've talked for an hour about this, right? And I want to get your take, right? But my thing is, we all as business people, every industry, every business, we all should have a unique value proposition, something that is unique to us. Now, and again, not to go off on a rail on this, but if we can come up with something unique to us, we can. All our marketing is done. Like everything becomes easy, right? Our marketing messaging is right there. It's an easy way to say, okay, this is how I'm different from Eric, and this is why you should pay me more. But in terms of differentiation, right? Because you said if I can show them value, everybody will pay for Ritz-Carlton value. So explore that a little bit.
Well, basically, we need to, most agents, the agents that I train come to me after the fact and say, I don't know how I've lasted in this business as long as I have, Eric. And my answer to them is always the same. And I say to them, you've lasted because to stay alive as a member of the herd, all you have to concern yourself with is not being the weakest member of that herd. Okay? So if most agents have really no idea on how to sell a home, and no offense to agents, because I don't think it's their fault. And it's not the brokerage's fault either, because brokerages have lost control of the agents. Brokerages have become landlords, okay? And all they want to do is play nice and not upset agents, because if agents start leaving, they're done, okay? So they have to kind of appease and coddle. It's like raising teenagers or herding cats. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't piss them off so that they're going to run away, but, you kind of have to have some semblance of order.
Yeah, no, that's hold on. I agree that's true, Eric, but don't you think so I a little bit disagree with you. I think the reason why most agents fail in 18 months, right, or most people fail and most people do not thrive in this industry that is so easy to get wealthy, is because of the one fact that they're not doing the one thing that you're providing, right? They're not providing actual training, right? I think typically the messaging is at you name the brokerage, right? Coldwell, everybody it's here's your desk, here's the phone, you're on your own. That's it. And everybody's freaking out. They're like, I don't know what to do. And that's why again, like, people tune into this show and they're like, oh my God, you saved my life, bringing people like Eric on. But so don't you think brokers have a responsibility that they are actually dropping the ball of not providing training?
To some degree, yes. But okay. I mean, if the training sucks, what difference does it make?
Yep, that's true.
Because most of it does. And again, I'm not here to poke holes in people's systems and what they do or whatnot, but when you look at the trainers that are out there, the big name trainers that most brokerages, because I talk to brokerage owners all the time, seeing if I can help them in promoting what it is I do, they're talking about the fact that their group is taking this training and so on and so forth, and all of it. First of all, the trainer himself hasn't sold a home in probably 25 years. Right. Okay. Since before the advent of the internet. So that's how, what other industry would that work in?
None.
Okay. None. So now we're dealing with, okay, what kind of training are they getting? Are they actually getting training that is consumer centric, or is it about making them successful agent centric training so that they can survive? Because from the broker owner's point of view, they just want their agents to survive.
Right. Absolutely. Well, but hold on. Let me pile on. So I agree with you, man. 100%. The training they're getting is garbage. The trainers themselves are really in no position to be a trainer. Right? It's that old adage, right? If you can do, if you can't, teach. So I mean, I see a lot of that, and here's what I see, Eric, and again, I'd love to get your take. I think training or coaching, whatever term you want to use, people want to know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, right? The sequencing. Mm-hmm. And most of those trainers don't know what it is, don't know how to do it, especially the new stuff, and maybe kind of know the sequencing. So here's what you go out and hire a coach, you name it, you give them $1,000 a month, you sign a 12-month contract, which I think is like not right. And that quote unquote training or coaching ends up boiling down to a coachability partner. Do you see that out there? Because I do.
Like an accountability partner?
No, but I sign.
Coachability.
No, hold on. I sign up for a coach because I want to know what
Right.
to do, how to do it, when to do it, and I instead I end up getting a coachability partner. Oh, how many calls do you want to make next week? Oh, why didn't you make your calls, Eric? That's not what a coach is, right? A coach is telling me what I need in my game right now.
Well, for me, it's all about creating mastery in what you do. I mean, if you have no systems or strategies on how to get a home sold and how to position, educate, prepare, position, and execute the home selling process, then you really have nothing, okay? And these antiquated methods of open houses, realtor caravan, all these other things that people do, thinking that these things are part of the home selling process, are wrong. But yet that's what goes on. So training to me starts with the individual, and the biggest issue I had with all the trainings that I've gone through, and I've gone through a lot, and the ones that I haven't gone through, I've trained agents who have and have picked their brains about them, so I know that there's this thread of consistency throughout them, and it's that they have this thing, okay, their MacGuffin or whatever you want to call it, and here it is, come to this conference, here's the whatever it is, the listing presentation, the amazing phrases and so on and so forth to deal with objections and all this other stuff. And again, it's all agent centric. I mean, the fact that we have to be trained to deal with objections is, to me, incomprehensible. I mean, what objections? If you are educating the client on the home selling process, they are going to devour everything you say if you make it about them and about what they want to accomplish. Okay, forget about you. Okay, that's the first thing I tell people is take yourself out of the equation. Okay, when you're competing for a listing and you know you're going in and you're competing with 4 or 5 other agents and you don't know who they are because it doesn't really matter. My question to these guys or the people I train is, what is your mindset going in? And inevitably, everyone is get the listing. And so I ask them, I go, do you think that the homeowner that you're going to walk into is not going to pick up on that? Do they not feel you? Do you think that you need to communicate that with them? No, they don't. They'll pick up on that. I mean, it's been scientifically proven we're 98% energy, 2% matter. We can speak to each other without opening our mouths, whether it's body language, what our intention is, so on and so forth. So when these trainers, and again, it just is what it is, and I think it needs to change. And I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just saying that there is a better way.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
the trainers. Just let me finish this up. The trainers need to get away from just giving their students or trainees technical advice, okay? Because some of the technical isn't bad. It's not all bad, okay? But when you don't support that technical stuff that they're sharing with a philosophical, with some philosophical expansion about what, why, and how, and then support that with some personal development, because you can, you know this. I mean, 100 people go to a training, 10 people may be able to take what they got out of that training and become top producers if they're lucky. It might even be less than that. The other 95% are going to be right back where they were before they went there. Why is that? Well, because nobody worked on them. Nobody helped them with what it is they're struggling, because the analogy I use is if we put 10 people in a Formula One car, 9 of them are legitimate race car drivers, and Toby, I throw you in one and go get them, Toby. What are you going to do? If you can even get the thing moving, you're likely going to crash.
Of course.
But it's the same vehicle. It's the same vehicle that everyone else is driving. So why can't you drive it? Well, because you don't have the skills, right? You've not been trained in how to use this thing. So you have to back it up. And in my way of thinking, training needs to start with the personal development, philosophical expansion, and technical mastery. And until you get all three, it's not durable and it's not going to. You're not going to be able to sustain it.
Well, yeah. So I would agree, right? Because there are if we look at the disc profile, like for me, I'm 99D, 99I. I'm clearly a listing agent. I would not play well with buyers, right? And there's that other person who's an SC. Who is they're much more suited to buyers. So if you try to take that SC person or that buyer person and force them to, here's how to handle all these objections, right? They're gonna it's just not gonna fit. So I agree. You have to take the person, take what their strengths are, what they're good at, what they want to do, and then build their business around them, right? Just like that pearl develops. So I would agree with you on that. So let's jump to. Because the people listening can't, they are who they are, DI, SC, whatever it is. And everybody is always, what everyone wants to know is what's that technical stuff. So for you, I can see how your secret sauce is starting to develop, right? I start with a person and I start to hone their skill set to get to mastery based on them and where they are today, right? You're certainly going to train a 50-year-old lady who's been a mom differently than some 22-year-old go get him male who just graduated from USC. So in terms of mastery, is that well? Just unpack that. I don't want to lead you down a road that maybe you don't want to go down.
Mastery on what level?
There you go.
Three or the technical?
No, the technical piece. Well, no, but you can. Well, hold on. So you start with a person. How would you even explain mastery around the person? Because I wouldn't think that. I would think that it's just the technical piece.
Yeah, I mean, really, the mastery I speak about is more to do with the technical.
Okay.
I mean, to achieve personal mastery, I mean, that's you can work on yourself for a lifetime. And I joke around with people. I go, I'm not here to turn you into Deepak Chopra, but I will tell you, if Deepak Chopra was a realtor, he'd kick ass. Mm-hmm. Okay, because he'd be able to connect with people on an authentic level. Okay, and this business is about relationships. It's not about churning through people. Okay, it's not about how many can I get into my funnel so that I could spit them out at the end. And yet, that's exactly what it's become.